Housecarl is a damage dealing kind of fragile axe unit that you typically want to put on the back line. It basically wants to go for big attacks and parting blows to kill. It also wants for growth types, I would say, like precise, offensive, things like this, which is conveniently what Aubin already has because it only really cares about damage, and it should have something protecting it or things that can protect it because it can die quite easily, but it can dish out serious damage. So let's look at what it has. So 6 stamina if it's the party leader, can break gates and barricades more easily. It's an infantry axe type, so any axe weapons, and it has 100 mobility. Now for the skills, we have Smash, which is its default skill, which inflicts defense, physical defense minus 20%, has 100 physical potency, 100% hit rate. Now 100% hit rate doesn't mean it always hits, it means that that's the base hit rate before looking at like evasion and other stats. So it's reasonably accurate for what it does. The next skill that you unlock, Rolling Axe, is at level 10. This is actually a very interesting attack because it hits 3 times, it attacks a row, so it can hit up to 3 things, and it rolls for 3 separate attacks, right? Each with a physical potency of 40. So if all 3 hit, you actually scale your damage over Smash, and you also multi-hit. But the hit rate is lower at 75%, so the probability that you hit all 3 hits on a single target, it's not super low, but it's probably closer to a coin flip than, you know, hitting like 1 or 2 of those hits, which is more likely. But if any of them land, you inflict physical defense minus 15%. So this is a pretty big attack. It's kind of similar to Fireball, except it's also an AoE, because Fireball multi-hits. Now, Fireball I don't believe can multi-burn. I think if it burns something, you just get burn 1 and that's it. So I'm fairly certain that when this inflicts minus 15%, it just applies it once. It doesn't like stack it. Now if it does, let me know if you've tested it, but as far as I can tell, it doesn't. Parting Blow is also another major skill that Housecarl likes to use. At the end of combat, you get a free attack in for decent damage and decent potency, and typically if you set this on lowest HP, you're going to be getting extra kills per combat, or in some cases, this is the difference between killing an enemy group or not. So between Smash and Parting Blow, you have pretty good damage. And then of course Rolling Axe, which you will eventually unlock at level 10. Now at level 15 you get Passive Strike, Frenzied Strike, which is a passive skill. 50 physical potency, 100 hit rate, activates after an ally is hit by an attack, counterattack a single enemy, and inflict physical defense minus 15%. This class is basically all about debuffing physical defense, which can be really useful against high health targets and high defense targets. Now against targets that guard a lot, it can be not as good because they still will reduce a lot of damage through guard, but against things that just have big health bars or that you just want to debuff in general just to kill, this can be a pretty good class for a physical team. And then you can get Crush from the Crushing Axe. Attacks a single enemy, inflicts stun, and it is also unguardable, which is very nice. So the thing that's weird about this, if you attack something else, so basically what unguardable means, like if I attack a target that gets guarded, the target still gets guarded, but the crush just goes through the guard's block. So you can still have to deal with like enemy tanks absorbing a combat, but then they get crushed instead. So that literally just happened to me while recording this video earlier. I had to re-record it because like I messed something up. But all right. And then they also have Vitalize, which is hugely useful for their Valor skill. For 2 Valor points, you can restore 2 stamina to an allied unit, including the unit that has the Housecarl. So this can allow any unit who is like solo pushing to restore its own stamina to continue solo pushing. So if you want to just make like a few super units and just have like a dude sit at home base to make sure you don't lose and your super units are pushing, you can have him restore through Vitalize. So pretty good kits, some pretty good abilities, pretty good damage outputs. Now I do think mages on average can be better than the physical debuff because there's high damage classes that don't need the physical debuff to kill. So I would honestly rather have a mage in this team, maybe like a witch for the freeze, because the freeze pretty much stops in action. And I don't know, I think you can guard it. Yeah, you can guard magic in this game. So yeah, so you can guard a freeze, but it can hit the back line, which Crush cannot innately. but this does have more potential for damage because of Parting Blow, so it just depends on the enemy team comp. But for the example, like in this use case, I would rather have like a magical unit to like bunker bust their tanks so that we have easy, pushing through tanks. But this class does also help with tanks, honestly. It's kind of like an in-between of like a physical and a mage in terms of dealing with tanks because of the physical debuff, and it's typically high damage. So it can be good at dealing with tanks. Now what else does it do? In this example build, I have Crush. So I had a specific encounter where there was an enemy that I wanted to debuff, but it did get blocked anyways, so that actually didn't work. But you can change your Crush and Smash rules based on what you need. The stun is nice to prevent actions. So for example, if there's like an enemy that will heal halfway through the battle, stunning that can secure a kill. Or if you just want to stun like an enemy attacker so it doesn't get its attack off right away and then you kill it, that can be useful, assuming you have higher initiative. Now, Aubin has pretty decent initiative, and I think the class overall is pretty decent initiative. So it tends to be able to get Crush off, unlike Griffin Knights, who for some reason seem to have bad initiative. But in this case, I'm running Brown Beret, Crushing Axe, which I think he comes with, and Warrior's Medallion, which gives you more damage and higher crit rate. So a little bit more physical damage, and crit rates, and then we have a Crush. Now, obviously, once he hits level 10, we're going to want to be using Rolling Axe situationally when there's like 2 in a column we can hit or more, because then we get way more damage off and put a debuff on several targets, which is huge. So this is like a pretty big deal for this class, like hitting level 10. Whereas other classes, it's not as impactful. This is like the it factor of this class is Rolling Axe. That's pretty much it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you found this useful. Feel free to comment below as to how you use the class, or if you have any information on the class, like good setups, good conditions for general combat and things like this. But yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for checking this out. I'll see you next one. Peace.